Are you struggling to find love? Are you tired of making the same mistakes, picking the wrong person, ignoring all the red flags only to wake up one day and say, I knew it all along? Sound familiar? In this episode, we sit down with a matchmaking expert to answer all your questions around love, relationships, and she shares her top 5 dating tips for finding love in 2025. The following is a conversation with Laaleen Sukhera, a love expert, matchmaker, and the founder of Socialleague, who's here on a mission to help you cultivate meaningful relationships, whether through their events or her bespoke matchmaking services. And if you enjoyed the episode, guys, if you please do me the small favor of hitting that subscribe button, would really help me build the show and build the channel and bring more amazing guests and inspiring conversations. But that's enough for me from now. Let's get to the episode. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hope It Helps, and I have a very special guest with me today, Miss Laaleen Sukhera. Laaleen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Khalid.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. So guys, just to give you some context, Laaleen and I are part of the Founder Connects community. Shout out to the FC fam. And so we got connected, and then I think one of those in our meetings and stuff, we got had a chance to catch up. And when I heard about what you do, I'm like, oh, this is very interesting, very juicy.
It's a little different from the others.
Completely different. I think you're 100% the only one in the community that does, what you do. And I don't think many people here do what you do either.
There are people.
Really?
Yeah, there's people who are matchmakers, and there's people who do specific kinds of events, but I do both.
You do, exactly. Yeah. So what I wanted to talk to you today about, Laaleen, is love, relationships, dating. How do you find that perfect partner? What are the mistakes to avoid, the red flags? Because as we were just talking, off camera, everyone's looking for answers. I don't know if there's a specific answer, but there's definitely maybe things to avoid, things to look out for. How do you know if someone really loves you? Is it infatuation? So I want to just really deep dive today into the work that you do, because it's very unique, and I love having conversations about especially this kind of topic. But before we get into everything, Laaleen, why don't you give all of us a little bit of background about yourself, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, well, I am divorced myself, single, but I'm in a long-term committed relationship with Dubai because I'm in love with the city. I'm a big supporter of Team Dubai, brand Dubai. Now, so people here tend to ask you, where are you from? And then you give one answer, then they're like, where are you really from? Where's your passport from? Where's your accent from? So I'm going to answer all that in one go.
Sure.
My ethnicity is Pakistani. My nationality is British. My education is American, and I live in Dubai.
Okay.
So there you go.
Nice mix there. Nice mix.
Yeah, much like most of us here, right?
Yeah,
We're
true.
all sort of from everywhere, and that's how we find each other and get along. And it doesn't really matter where you're from. It's about your personality before nationality.
I
so
like that.
Yeah, more than 20 years as a writer, communications professional, but I'm a connector. I call myself a connector.
Yeah. And so I wanted to start just a conversation today, just starting on PR, because I think your experience kind of plays into the work you do now. I see a lot of similarities. You said that you're someone, you just said, you're a connector. You like people, you like seeing people happy, which is, the kind of the ethos that you try to run through, all the events you run in the community. And in PR, there's always this debate. They say it's better to speak because otherwise you can't control the narrative. So I wanted to just start there, because I think controlling the narrative plays into how you kind of present yourself as well as a person.
Okay. Are we talking about me specifically, or the general landscape?
General landscape.
For PR?
Yeah.
Well, I'm really big on authenticity and clarity in messaging. I think that we should always keep things to a minimal. People have very short attention spans, and you don't want to clog people's bandwidth with just unnecessary information. If they're interested, they'll follow up. Keep the message short, simple, concise, simple language. Not everyone is a native English speaker. And you have to respect that. So certain nuances, you have to be aware of those, cultural sensitivities. which I think come naturally to those of us who've been exposed to so many different cultures. But for people who are, new here and are not that familiar with it, it comes with experience. But most of all, be very respectful of people's time, and also just be respectful in general, no matter who they are. Whether it's somebody serving you lunch or, that's in fact the most important thing. Just be very respectful of people.
Yeah, it's the small details that really matter.
Yeah, and I think the person you are will shine through no matter what you do at some point, no matter how great your PR team is. There are things that happen in the world of crisis comms. There's so much. Look at, like, right now, there's the whole Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni debacle, and it's just getting worse and worse every day. I'm not even going to start there, but it could have been much more simple. But now look at it. It's become a monster. And you have to be careful because whatever's out there can be misconstrued. It can be presented and re-edited in a different way. And now we're in the era of deep fakes and AI. So
it's a scary time.
It really is. You have to be so careful with the kind of people you interact with and the kind of people you meet, because you don't even know if it's a real person now anymore unless you meet them in real life.
Yeah.
So that's why I really focus on real life interaction, whether it's the community that I've created or it's my clients, my matchmaking clients.
Yeah. And this kind of transitions on to the event side first. I wanted to start there with Socialleague and what you're doing. So I know you have lots of different events, and those are more about building community, getting people to know each other and so on. It's not necessarily a like speed dating, as you said. That's not what those events are for. But you said when you moved here a couple of years ago that you were attending all these networking events and you felt there was a lack of, kind of what you just said, transparency, authenticity, people wearing masks. So I really like how you've approached the event side, because you go through a vetting process. You make sure that the people that are coming to these things are like-minded. I don't know what the questions are. So I want to understand first, why have you found that to be a very important thing when you're running your events? And then I'd love to hear, what are the criteria of how you judge this is someone that could fit and maybe this is someone that shouldn't attend?
Well, that's a lot of questions out there. So please interrupt me if I forget to answer one of them or address one of them. Where should we start? Well, the events themselves are just a way to bring together like-minded people at a similar phase of life. So it's mostly like 30s, 40s, 50s plus, and they are mostly specifically single, unless otherwise stated. And the reason for that is not because they're matchmaking events. It's just to cultivate a community of people who are in the same phase of life as you, same boat as you, whether you're a single parent or you're widowed or you've never been married or you're, raising kids on your own. It's sort of like bringing together great people who might not otherwise meet through their immediate friend circle, through their colleagues. These are people that I've put together and that I attract. But yeah, I do screen people with questions, because if it's a singles event, then people should be properly single. You shouldn't be pretending to be single and take advantage of people's vulnerabilities, because you do make social connections. And I've made lots of wonderful friends through my own gatherings. You might have heard the acronym here, MBA, which is Married But Available. I'll ask
that was
people,
a new one to me.
I didn't even come up with that. It was already here. So it already exists. And, it's the whole thing like, hey, are you separated, divorced, never married? They'll be like, oh, I'm single. I'm single in Dubai. And I'm like, what does that mean exactly? Are you single in the whole wide world? No, I'm only single in Dubai. My wife and kids live somewhere else. I'm on my own here. And, I understand that marriage can be lonely. I used to be married myself, but you should work on yourself and heal and respect your spouse enough to be honest with them and not complicate someone else's life. That's really unfair. So if you're going to present yourself as single, then you should actually be single. And if you're not single, then work on yourself. There's so many resources available and support systems and tools. Work on your relationship. Try to make it happen. Try to make it work.
So in the screening process, so if I came to you, I'm like, oh, hi, Laaleen, I would love to attend one of these events. What are the kind of questions you're asking me? Is it like a questionnaire, or you do like a quick call? Because again, on a questionnaire, I can say all the right things, but
you can say that you're 39, but you're actually 19, but you're not going to have the confidence to show up. And that does happen. I do have 19-year-olds who want to attend.
Really?
And I'm like, come on, guys. It's more suitable for your single aunts and uncles. Come on, guys. Yeah. You have so many places to go. Just give us a little space, Give us an opportunity to also hang out. Like, the world is already your oyster. So I ask very basic things: full name, age, gender, profession, education level. I don't want people who are looking to prey on other people. So I just use my instinct. Both genders, there are people who engage in transactional elements, shall we say. Mm-hmm. So those kind of people, I don't attract them, because I think that they know that I check, and they know that I evict people as well. Like, I'm a nice person, but I need to create a safe space. And
Absolutely.
That's really important to me. And feedback is really important to me from everyone there. And a lot of times people will come and they'll say, I'm nervous. I don't go alone anywhere. And I say, no, this is your ready-made friend group, and don't worry, like we all talk to each other. And when I moved here, and as you mentioned, I joined social gatherings, and they weren't specifically business networking. That's totally different. But social gatherings with activities, there was no proper host. There were no proper introductions. And it was like this mishmash of different ages, different relationship statuses. So you don't even know, like, who am I talking to and who's that sitting there? Like, I don't know anything about anyone. It was just like this awkward feeling. And I'm friendly. Like, I'll go and I'll introduce myself and I'll try to connect people, like, in general, even if I'm not a host. But I was like, come on, let me just do it myself. If something doesn't exist, I create it.
Yeah.
So I didn't create matchmaking to matchmake myself, which is what I get asked.
I'm sure.
I'm like, seriously?
I'm sure.
I'm like, do you get a medical degree so you can perform surgeries on yourself? It doesn't work that way.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, no, it's true. But I did create the community because it was just organic,
The community was built organically, like you said, and you've been running it now for 2 years.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So it was like an unofficial community, on different groups and apps, and now it's official now. I have a registered company. I have, I'm a consultant. I've recently appeared in the press because I want to attract like-minded people, and I know who my demographic is, and I want to connect them with even more people, but I focus on quality, not quantity. And, Dubai is the kind of place where we'll always have newcomers. We always have great energy. So it's a good way to sort of align that and make it a welcoming place for people who want to live and invest here as well.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think what's very important, the very important aspect that makes yours unique is the vetting process, because I've been just like you. I've been to many, social things and networking things, and I'm like, yeah, like, I don't know if this is my kind of people, like, not my vibe. I think you need, for a successful event, you need like an underlying theme or an underlying like message. We're all here for this, for this reason. So I wanted to kind of shift onto the matchmaking side and love and like relationships. So first, I'm going to start first because everyone has a different definition for this. If I ask you, I'm like, Laaleen, define love to me, what are you going to say?
Love takes place in so many different forms. Love for your children, love for your country, love for your love for humanity.
Let's look at it in the context of
gastronomy.
Okay, let's look at it, then let's specify in the context of a marriage or a relationship.
Love is about love grows and it can also diminish. You know what they say, there's a thin line between love and hate. It means you can still work on it. There's some emotion there, but when it becomes indifferent, I think that's when serious relationships and marriages can break down, if they reach that tipping point. And, we see a very high number of divorces in the world now, not because people have changed, but because I think women are more financially independent than they used to be. So they actually have an option. And men too. Men have every right to feel happy in their marriage and their relationship as well. So I think really highly developed places like Dubai, the genders are on a pretty equal footing. And you'll find a lot of very accomplished people of both genders. It's the inequality that traditional societies had in the past. It's no longer there somewhere like Dubai.
It's interesting that you said, like, as you correctly said, divorce rates are going up like everywhere in the world. My thing is, though, I have a bit of how do I say this? I think it's become not like a trend, but I feel marriage, the way people look at marriage is not the same as it used to be. It's kind of like, now, I've not chosen you for the rest of my life. I've chosen you until I'm not happy anymore. And I think, like, when I reflect just on like my generation and looking at like my parents' generation, they didn't, like, that wasn't even a thought or like an option, no matter how bad it got. Doesn't mean that's a good thing either.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think that, like, if you don't have that option, it's going to force you to work on it. And sometimes things are more fixable than just, oh, we need to get divorced. There's probably something you can do. But that's my take. What do you think?
See, Khalid, I think the opposite of you.
Interesting.
Because
Interesting.
I think that if you know that your partner, your spouse can leave you, you will work on it. You'll both work on it because you do want to save it. And whereas the older generations, they had nowhere to go and they knew they couldn't leave each other and they just continued becoming really bitter. And that's not healthy. That's not a healthy way to raise kids. It's so much better to be civilized and co-parent. And it's so much better for both of you, both parents or both partners, even without children, to work on something and build it and try to grow together instead of growing apart. But at the same time, preferably giving each other a little bit space.
Yeah.
Space to stay inspired and space to be themselves as well as part of a family unit.
Yeah. It's interesting that I get where you're coming from. I can see how the threat of losing something or the fear of losing something might motivate.
Not just the threat, just like not taking it for granted.
That's what I'm talking about.
Like, don't take someone for granted. Don't
Yeah.
take your relationship for granted because it might not be there tomorrow or it could change.
Yeah, no, of course. Very true. If you would allow me, I would like, okay, because this is an area that I have lots of questions about. So I watched this guy on Netflix, or it's not on YouTube, and he's a divorce lawyer. And I actually read his book. And the funny thing, the foreword of the book is, it's funny how the guy whose job it is to get you out of marriage is the guy who has the best marriage advice. So the book is not how to have a great marriage. The book is how to not get divorced, which is a completely different take. And to me personally, it was a very eye-opening book. There were lots of things that I didn't think about, lots of things that maybe I took for granted or I assumed. I'm like, oh, that could never happen or this would never be a problem. And it was just a big wake-up call, on so many different areas. Now, I know you mentioned you're divorced. I think this is where where what we were just talking about kind of comes in. Because there's, like you said, don't take it for granted, and that should motivate you to work harder. But at the same time, I think because of where things are now and dating apps and the financial aspects and people, men and women are on more equal footing, that maybe, let's say you get married, okay? You're married now for 5 years. Let's say at year 3, you hit like you're at a tipping point, But what if you just stayed a little bit longer and worked on it? You could have got to year 5, but I think people aren't willing to, or it's kind of shortcut now. You know, that extra thing that could have saved it doesn't work anymore.
I think if there's an extreme red flag situation, they do try to pull out early, especially before they have children, which is why it's better to wait a little while before you have children. But otherwise, you know, you love each other. Your partner is your everything. But then at the same time, you can't realistically expect to get everything from one human being.
Very true.
You should be a complete person yourself and not pressure them to be everything for you, because nobody can do that.
Yeah.
You know, keep it realistic, but also, you know, keep the love alive.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I would like to ask, how did you know, for example, in your case, that it was time to, stop?
Well, in my case, we had children, so there is no way I was going to just end the marriage. I was going to make it work until my last breath. And I did. I gave it a go. I stuck around for 11 years. And it wasn't until there was nothing left that I filed for divorce. So I know I have no regrets, because I have, beautiful children. And I know that I tried. I tried.
Was it just different values, different lifestyle, different things that you guys wanted?
We didn't get to know each other properly.
Okay.
It was very rushed, and we ended up being completely different people. And it doesn't mean that you have to be very similar to the person you marry, because there's so many complementary traits, right?
Absolutely.
But you shouldn't be completely different in terms of your goals and your values and your day-to-day lifestyle. I mean, so many things come into play. So
of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And I think especially kids just adds. Like, my wife and I don't have kids yet, but I've seen, like, lots of my friends have kids, and I've seen, just besides the responsibility of just having a child, it changes the relation. Things change in a relationship and how you guys work with each other. Because so my wife and I, we did a podcast like a month ago, and it was like 5 years. Yeah, you saw it. Yeah, so it was 5 years since our first one. So what I really took from that is how much, and it kind of touches on what you say though. You can have people change. You know what I'm saying? Like, even like we've only been married now, 3 years, but we are both not the same people we were when we first got married. We both progressed, we both changed, we think about things differently. And I think one of the struggles in marriage is to be conscious and like aware that the person I'm sitting with in front of me right now, having a discussion that we've previously had, is not the same person. So to hold you to what you said before or how you thought before is not fair on both sides. But to be conscious and active and like to address it in that way is difficult.
Yeah, you have to stay in touch with each other and, lend a supporting hand and, be there for each other. But at the same time, try to grow together, try to help each other grow together as well. And because so many people just grow apart. There are certain milestones in marriages, not to alarm you. There's a 7-year itch.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, children, that's a whole other thing, because that's unconditional love.
Yeah.
That is completely unconditional. No matter what, you will love your child. All of a sudden, your priorities change, your responsibilities change, but the love grows, and you see your partner as, wow, my child is here because of them. And you see them in your child as well. Like, your child will take the best of both of you. And it's such a gift. And
you said 3 kids, right?
I do. I have 3 daughters. Yes.
Oh, wow. All girls too.
They're all girls. Yes.
Look at the smiles.
I love it. They're all girls.
Okay. So we touched on like marriage a little bit. I want to now, because you're a matchmaker. So you're not in the marriage conversation. You are in the beginning of the conversation, in the journey.
See, the thing is, I've been through marriage, and I've been through divorce, and I've been through being single again. So I can relate to so many people.
Exactly. And that's actually a very good point. So, okay. First, I want to understand, because with your background in PR, with the events and your work as a matchmaker, as you said, you like connecting people, you like seeing people happy. Where does that come from? From when you were a kid, or is that something from your family? Like, where does that personality, where did this all start?
I've been like that my whole life. I've always, played Cupid. Yeah. I was, Yeah, I mean, I grew up seeing my parents in a really loving marriage. And then my sister, my older sister, she and her husband met in high school. So I was the one who used to help out, make sure that, she wouldn't get caught. So I'm a romantic. It didn't happen for me like that. Mine was kind of arranged.
Okay.
Because I was pretty useless at, I was very shy and awkward. So I was like, who am I supposed to marry? I friend-zoned everyone I know. So yeah, and I just really wanted to have a baby. And I was like in my 20s and now I would have really, I mean, if we could all look back and advise ourselves, our younger selves, things would be so different. But now there's so much more information out there. So I do think we're raising our children very differently, the girls and the boys. And I'm very hopeful of Gen X, Gen Alpha, Gen Beta. Your children will be Gen Beta.
Will they? I don't know what that means, but
yeah,
I hope that's a good thing.
Of course. I am in awe of, Z and Alpha. So Beta, I'm sure, is going to be phenomenal.
Well, fingers crossed. We'll cross that road when we get there. Okay.
Yeah.
So, matchmaking. Now, I know that I wanted to start when it comes to matchmaking with this. I know that you also are affiliated with agencies in the UK, like Macklin and Berkeley and so on.
Yeah. So I have partnerships with a lot of great matchmakers and agencies around the world. And it's like a sisterhood because you're helping connect people. And sometimes someone has a client and then they'll want to sort of see your pool, see if you can suggest anyone for them and vice versa. So I'm always really happy to help. So I help matchmake people, not just in Dubai, but in other countries too, because I think the world is a small place. And, love can happen at any age, any time. So, I'm in touch with matchmakers from London, Switzerland, South Africa, even India, like lots of different places. And it's just growing. And we're just happy to connect our clients.
Yeah, it must be, I can like, when it works out, it must be a very satisfying feeling.
Yeah, it's like a blessing. I feel like it's a blessing to make people happy. And, look, we're all happy single anyway, but hey, if you meet the right person, there's nothing like it in life. And, through my clients, I've learned that, as a single matchmaker, I've learned that there's no rush. When it's the right time for you, it will happen. But you also need to be proactive and mindful. Meet people mindfully. That's a big tip that I would suggest to people. And then also be proactive. They're not going to just fall in your lap when you're sitting at home watching Netflix. You have to sort of tell the universe that you're ready and show it in your actions and your intentions. And that is when things happen. Because, one of my clients, like a very beloved client of mine, he's getting married, but not to someone I introduced him to, but because he was ready and he positioned himself in such a way that things started happening for him. So it does happen. It gets the ball rolling for sure.
No, absolutely. So, okay, before I get into this, because there was something juicy there.
Ooh.
Matchmaking, you said you matchmake people across the world, right? I was thinking, I'm like, okay, everywhere's different though. Dating cultures are different, society is different, rules are different, expectations are different. So how have you found, are there, my question is, what are the differences, and I guess what are the common threads that you find across regardless of the culture?
Well, first of all, most of these people are well-traveled people who've lived in more than one country. Many of them speak multiple languages. The majority of my database has a master's degree.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And just my database. But, I will have, some clients who have not had their bachelor's degree, but they're tech entrepreneurs. I've got that as well. I've got people who are, there's lots of professionals. There's senior professionals. There's doctors, academics, lots of C-suite people. The common threads are they're just good people with good intentions, and they've all experienced dating app fatigue. And that is a universal trend right now. because they're dating apps. I mean, I've tried them myself, and I still try them because I need to, first of all, stay connected to everything that's out there. I like to have conversations with people. And at the same time, I'm also a single person. So I need to experience the singlehood and relate to my community. And, dating apps were once this great way to meet people, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah, of course.
But now everyone wants more authenticity because there's so much deception, or there's endless chats that lead to nothing, and then they just sort of take the soul out of, like, you should enjoy this process.
Yeah.
This is not meant to be a process that gives you anxiety and it's unpleasant. It's supposed to be happy. It's supposed to be a journey.
Yeah.
And I'd like to make it a happy journey, minus the pressure, minus the stress. I'd like to just, bring people in contact with each other organically, or do like one-on-one introductions where I do all the difficult work. Like, I'll ask the questions. Like, I'll know, for example, if two people I think would like each other, there'd be a spark, but at the same time, one person wants to start a family and the other person does not want to have children, I will never introduce them. So, because that would end in heartbreak. So, these kind of things, like these kind of questions, people don't really know or ask each other or are completely honest about early on when they're getting to know each other. And then if it becomes a relationship, it can end in heartbreak. So why do that to them? I can help. I'm sort of a wing woman, like an advisor, friend, coach. And I feel very protective of my clients as well.
I feel you would have to be, especially in that line of work, because it's a very personal thing. Finding that relationship, even having someone work with you to like find that relationship, it's a sensitive one. So I can understand why you'd be very protective over them. That's
the beauty of modern matchmaking.
Matchmaking has changed.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us how has it evolved from, I guess what it was?
Well, old school matchmaking was sort of more traditional, like the traditional sort of elderly auntie who knew families, and I don't know. I don't relate to that. That didn't happen to me, and I've never seen it. But I also got married before dating apps became really big. Like, they became big right after I got married. Mm-hmm. So I didn't experience that then. It was more about who you knew and what circles you were in, etc. But modern matchmaking is done with finesse, and it's more about the individuals than pleasing their families. And it's more about connecting like-minded individuals with similar lifestyles, similar personalities, life goals, habits, rather than just pleasing their parents. Because, of course, you do marry a family when you marry a person, but a place like Dubai, a lot of people are here without their extended family. But ideally, I've noticed definite common threads. Most, I would say 80% of people are specifically looking for non-smokers. So if you're a smoker, really? It's time to quit.
Well, thank God I'm married then. I'm not quitting anytime soon.
No, you will. When your wife gets pregnant, you will. And your children will.
That's what she hopes, but I don't know.
That's what you think.
That's why my smoking might increase, not
That's
decrease.
What you think. Okay. So number one is, the smoking aspect. Most people don't want a smoker. Okay. Number two, being physically active. Now, It doesn't mean you need to have like a really toned, ripped body if you're a man or a woman, but you do need to be like somewhat physically active, because it implies like a healthy balance, a healthy lifestyle. And people really look for that. Like 9 out of 10 people look for that.
That's very
Both
interesting.
genders, all ages.
Wow. That's really interesting. I would have... The physical activity one, I guess I could understand. The smoking one has been a surprise to me.
Oh, yeah. And number 3, most people they will respect some of them are very specific that we want the same religion, but most of them are okay with other religions, maybe not all, but compatible ones, as long as the person is not so devout that they will project and ask them to follow the same beliefs.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. That, you know, you have your own faith, I have my own faith, and we coexist. So that's a big one. And this is also modern matchmaking, because I don't see traditional matchmakers probably aiming for things like that. They'll be like, where did your, you know, great-great-grandfather come from? And, you know, yeah. Okay, so we don't really want to go there. What else? Also, a modern matchmaker will want you to be attracted to each other.
I think that's kind of implied, though, no?
Yeah, like personalities should be attracted. You should be attracted to their personality as well as their looks, but not in the superficial sense. Because if someone is very appealing initially, you know, you get used to it as well. So there needs to be like lasting qualities. So that is the next one. Lasting appeal, enduring appeal, and yeah, life goals. Like some people will want to be here for the long term. Some people are open to moving. Some people want to retire and move to the other end of the world. So it does come into play, like where the people are from or where they want to live in the future, so that they don't disagree on that, because that can also be the reason for a breakup.
Yeah.
Or a big career move that takes them somewhere else. Will the other person be okay with it? You know, these things happen in life, and there's only so much a matchmaker can do. But I do my best to figure this out and align their goals, align their criteria. Say if someone is open to a blended family but doesn't have children themselves, then, you know, that's also flexibility, agility is a good thing. But, you know, being realistic. Yeah. At the same time.
Amazing tips. Those are, it's very interesting how things have changed. And like when you went through all the different, like, I think the values or the questions or again, as a matchmaker, I cannot guarantee that this is a happily ever after and you're good for the rest of your life. No, but your job is to create is this foundation strong enough to give it the highest chance of success hitting all these different areas? That's what your job is. But to be responsible for what happens later, of course you can't be, because life is life and things change and people change. But I would struggle to, I think, do what you do, because, so to give you context, my background is I'm a licensed hypnotherapist. So clients would come to me, we'd have a great session, but then they leave. And I'm like, I know I did my job. I know they benefited from this, but that doesn't mean you've been carrying this thing for 30 years. Doesn't mean all of a sudden you're fixed. So it never gave me the validation I needed that guaranteed this was a success. Okay. So I look at matchmaking. I think with matchmaking, I would look at it in a similar way, because that I'm helping you, but that final outcome I can't control.
See, and also, where does the story end? You know, when people ask me, how many couples have you matched and how many are married? I'm like, no. I don't want rushed marriages. I did it, and it wasn't right. You need to take your time getting to know each other. And I do work with relationship coaches, and they all advise, another great tip, get to know someone properly for at least 3 to 4 months before moving to something serious, because there's a mask that slips. Some people are not completely authentic, and they do change themselves to win you over, or they think they're doing the right thing, or they're trying to improve themselves, but they can't keep it up. And accept people for who they are at face value. You know, women especially think they can change men. And even men, they think they can, you know, if they marry someone very young, she's amenable, but she's going to change. She's going to come into her own at some point. So you can't really change each other. You have to accept each other, love each other for who they are. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And look, as you said, I think a key word you've said there, and what's been the biggest lesson in the last few years I've been married, is acceptance. You know, and you touched on it earlier, like, so I've always been a hopeless romantic myself. So I was, you know, under the impression before I got married, like, oh, I have my wife and that's it, you know, roses and there's music playing for the rest of my life.
Oh,
and
I love that.
You know, but then reality hits and you're like, you have to understand, and kind of what you said, accept that it's unfair to expect this person to satisfy every single part of your life, or like what you want and what you need, you know what I mean? And this goes both ways. And you have to accept that, you know what, there's some things you're just not going to agree on.
And that's fine.
Exactly.
You
absolutely.
know what? As long as...
But that acceptance process to learn that has been what I guess my biggest challenge was, like going through that process.
Look, a little bit of empathy goes a long way.
Of course. Yeah.
So even if you can't offer a solution or be that shoulder perpetually, empathy helps. Yeah, I mean, it's a learning process, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And you seem like a very emotionally mature person. Did you ever like suggest to your wife, hey, let's do a hypnotherapy session?
We've done one.
Have you been like hypnotizing her to do
unfortunately, no, it does. I need like consent to make it work. I can't just like, that would be great.
I'm sorry, I had to ask.
No, of course. Fair. It's a fair question. Okay. So we've talked about how matchmaking has changed. We've talked about how you don't measure the success, I guess, of matchmaking by like that, what the end outcome is.
No, you measure it because with happy couples, but I just meant that the marriage shouldn't be very fast.
Okay.
Take your
so
time.
I misunderstood. Okay.
But yeah, it's great if there's a wedding. That's great.
Yeah.
And to me, like if it's a remarriage, that's even greater. And if
Really?
they're widowed, if they're single parents, oh my gosh, or if they're like mature couples, oh, it's great. Or if they're, someone who's been waiting a while and really wants to start a family and they do, I love it. I get very emotional.
Yeah, I can tell. It's so clear, Laaleen, that you're really passionate about what you do, but I also think that's what makes you very good at it as well. And so I wanted to now like kind of touch on couple of different things. So before I get into that, sorry, you said something very important right when we started, like early in the conversation, which was intention. And when you said that, it like triggered a memory for me. So before I met my wife, I had decided, I was 30 years old, and I was like, you know what, I'm fucking done. I've always been a relationship kind of guy. My wife is my second relationship ever. My first one was 6 years when I was 17. And then for 7 years, I tried and I failed many times. Things didn't work out. But I decided, and this is where the intention part comes in. I'm like, you know what? I'm open to meeting anyone. But from the beginning, I'm going to be very clear. This is what I'm looking for. If you have questions, you're not sure, bye. And then 2 months later, I met my wife. So
well done.
So people sometimes I say they're like, because there's this like, I think there's two different things going on at the same time. There's intention, like I was very like clear about what I want, but you also have to put yourself out there. And that's almost like, it's almost counterintuitive because you need to be flexible to meet people, but you don't need to be flexible with your intention. But I think that's where a disconnect often happens.
This is very insightful, and I can actually just see the difference between this and versus someone who's addicted to dating apps, because dating apps are like gamification, right? You get addicted to swiping. You think someone better will come along, or hey, 100 better people will come along. So you don't even appreciate what you have when it's there. You start looking over their shoulder and thinking, that's sort of like how modern dating has become. It's become very fleeting, very disposable. And what you did was remarkable, because you were intentional and then you focused on one person and you built it. And I think that's why it's worked. And that's why you're in a strong, mashallah, strong marriage, strong relationship. And that's why it worked. Otherwise, you perhaps might not have realized it until much later. And honestly, the older we get, the more set in our ways we become as well.
Absolutely. Very true. Very true.
So, letting people into your life when you're older, no matter what gender you are, it becomes a little more challenging as well, but all the more beautiful, because when you do that and it works, I mean, it's amazing.
So is age just, I wanted to touch on this part. So is age just a number? Because this is how I think about it. I'm like, look, you can, I think I think genders do come. I think that different genders and age do come into play here in different ways. Because I'm gonna generalize here. As men, we take longer to mature. Let's just call it as it is. It's fact. Women don't. But then down the line, there's like almost a switch. Like it almost switches. You know, people the older want the younger, and the younger want the older. So when I think about age and I see people that are like, oh, maybe they're seeing someone that's like 10 years apart or 15, and people tell me it can work, and I know it can. My thing is, and what I've learned, so between my wife and I, we're 4 years apart. Even in just in these 4 years, like there's already there's a challenge there, and that's only in 4 years, which would be, I guess, in my mind, in the quotation marks acceptable range or normal range. But when you start hitting 10 and like 15, like if you're 40 and you're dating someone who's 30, I'm like, you are in two different complete phases of life. Not saying it can't work, but to me as Khaled, just my perspective is like, how?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I just can't, I don't understand.
However, the older you get, the less age matters.
Oh, interesting. Okay, tell me about that.
Yeah, it's more about the phase of life than age. Like you could be 35 and never have haven't had a child, and be with someone who's 25 who has 2 children, and they'll be way more mature than you, regardless of gender. There's some guys too who have had children very young and they're very mature. I didn't get mature. I'm a very late bloomer. I didn't get mature until a very late age, and I'm still learning. So I think all of us are still learning as we go along.
100%.
But yeah, I think as you get older, age doesn't matter as much.
Interesting.
As it does when you're very young. Because, at that time, like 1 or 2 years seems like a lot when you're really young. And then as you get older, you're like, okay, 5 years, 6 years, either way, 10 years, maybe, But I do draw the line when it comes to matchmaking. Like I won't introduce people who have a massive age gap, like a generation, like an entire generation or a generation and a half. I don't think that's ideal in many ways.
Yeah.
But
So it's not about the age, it's about the phase of life.
It's about the phase of life.
Okay.
It's all about the phase of life.
Yeah.
But age helps you determine it. But generally it's, what you've been through, what your goals are, where you are in your personal life, your career, with or without children. I mean, there's so many things that come into play.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, one thing I really cherish about this opportunity to connect people is I'm given this colossal level of trust, and I uphold that. I'm very honored to have so much trust, and it's mind-boggling the way, people just confide in me, and I've learned so much through their stories, and both genders, different age groups from all over the world. It's just remarkable how similar we are. The genders, we're really not that different. The genders, both men and women, want very similar things, especially people who've already been through a big breakup from a long-term relationship or marriage. They generally just want peace, respect, kindness.
Peace.
I mean, things you don't even think of when you're really young and starting out, and you don't think of peace, kindness. Like, how is that hot? You think of hotness, chemistry. Yeah. Of course, everybody wants chemistry and a spark, but these things are fundamental for long-term compatibility.
For sure. And it's funny that you mentioned peace, because I feel like the older I get, the price I'm willing to pay for peace is every year is just getting higher. I'm like,
that's nothing yet. Wait another 10 years. Oh man. But I want to say, oh goodness, I forgot my train of thought. Oh well, it'll come back to me.
It'll come back. It's all good.
Yes,
please.
Another thing I've noticed, when people are divorced, and especially if it's been a traumatic divorce, which is, for the most part, there is some element of trauma, even if it's a civilized divorce. They want someone the complete opposite of their ex.
True.
Man or woman. So this opens them up to many different nationalities as well. Because
true.
usually people tend to marry someone from a very similar cultural background first time around, and second time around they are very open to something completely different.
Yeah. And it's very interesting that you said that, because even as I think because you touched on families earlier and of how now it's more about the individual, but I think when it's the second time around, even your family, okay, they'll still have a preference, but they'll be like, okay, like it's this one will be a little bit more, relaxed about it.
And also the poor family, they're like, what can we do now? Like, stop blaming us. It's your life. You're an adult. Don't act like a child.
Exactly.
Yeah, just take over. It's your life.
So I wanted to touch on dating apps. So I've been on dating apps. Everyone, I think, in the world has been on dating apps. And again, like you said, it was completely... Dating apps are also different you have different experiences in different places. There's different mindsets. People are there for different reasons. I remember like back in when I was on it, I would literally just sit. I wasn't even looking. I'm just like going like this, just swiping, because I'm like, it's a number.
Yeah, why do guys do that? They just swipe right on everyone. They don't read.
Yeah. Because for us to get like a match is a lot harder than it is for a woman to get a match.
Winning a lottery. Okay, so women get matches nonstop.
Exactly.
Annoying.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Because there's all of us we're just doing that because.
Sorry, not matches, likes.
Yeah.
Because women don't like back.
Yeah.
Very often.
Exactly. So that's what you have to do. It's like a numbers game. You swipe like 1,000.
Yeah,
and you'll
but
see like who comes. Then you filter. You go through. It's like sales. Then you go to like a filter.
Yeah, it is literally sales because there are people on it.
Yeah.
Transactional people on it.
I'm sure. I never liked them. Okay, I'm not and you kind of touched on this in a podcast I watched, which was like, I'm much more of I want to sit down and have a conversation. I don't want to chat with you on this app for like a week or 2 weeks, and then you give me your number, and then we have to talk on WhatsApp, and then maybe we'll have a drink or like whatever. I'm like, if this was like my thought process, I'm like, we have swiped each other. Okay, so there's some type of attraction there. That's step one. Instead of doing all this game and whatever, let's sit down. Let's have a drink. 1 hour. Either we're going to like each other or we're never going to see each other again. But obviously, that's not how, my experience was, and that's not how those things worked. And I've been catfished, by the way, on that app. But that's a story for another time.
Wow.
So
I think everyone's been catfished.
Yeah, I think so, Well, I was also, doing this, so it's also my fault. I have to take some accountability for it.
You don't even know if it's a real person anymore because they're true. AI.
Yeah, well, that was even before like AI days. So I think everyone, kind of like what you said, everyone now is looking for like you touched on it, like authenticity, and that's why your events are a great idea, because you're not there to meet someone, but it's just...
No, but it does happen.
That's what I'm saying. But
it does happen, but also there's a lot of platonic friendships.
Exactly.
And sometimes there's a business deal. You never know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's what I see modern, from my perspective. That's what the new wave of matchmaking is. It's not like, come here to like meet people for a romantic relationship, but like just come here, have some conversations.
Yeah,
and
you
see
socialize, and you at least know that they're single.
Yes.
If that comes up, you at least know you're not talking to someone's spouse.
Yeah.
And that's a relief for people, because everyone goes to conferences and mixers and business things, and nobody knows who's single, who's not single. Not everyone wears a ring. But I do have to say, but one-on-one matchmaking is proper matchmaking, because that will really put the focus on getting to know each other without the noise of other distractions. I don't want to say dating apps are terrible. I still think they're very useful, but I have some tips for people.
Please, give us please, guys.
So spend time to write your bio, but don't use AI.
Okay.
The same jokes again and again, the same thing. And please, gentlemen, stop taking photos with fish.
With fish?
With fish. Women don't find it very attractive.
Is that like a common thing?
It is. Men take photos with fish or bungee jumping.
What?
Yeah.
I
don't know.
It's so random.
I'll tell you what men want and what women want.
Okay.
But first of all, the universal thing is write a bio. Actually write it. Don't write about the things you hate. Write about who you are and what you want. Forget about the things you hate. You don't have to swipe on everyone, you know? The other thing is keep your photos real and recent. Do not use AI photos. Everybody knows. Do not use heavily filtered Snapchat photos, please. I mean, you can't tell who a person is when they're so blurred. And also, I've noticed both men and women do this facial lightening thing. It's very unattractive. Like, and you think like, oh wow, that guy's wearing pink lipstick, but he's not. He's just used a really strange filter. I don't get it. And you know, do have photos where you're doing something that you enjoy, like a sport, or you know, you're in your element, you're laughing, and don't put a picture of you with a group of people. Nobody knows who the person is, and oftentimes they'll think you're your friend, the cuter friend. Don't do that, and don't do a photo where you've like scribbled on someone's face, and you know, you're in a photo with someone else. Invest in a photographer, get a photo shoot. It's not a big deal. I actually offer photo shoots to my clients.
Okay, great idea.
My good friend is a great photographer. She takes very natural photos. So my clients are opting for that now. It really helps because your personality shines through. They're recent photos. They're not selfies. They're not awkward. And, you know, we want to see each other's full body shots.
Yeah.
You know, just be like normally dressed. Don't be over the top, but be real, be you. And yeah, instead of, what else? Yeah, and try to fill out all your preferences. Just fill them out.
Okay.
Fill them out. Okay, so there's all kinds of things that women see here on apps. If you're over 35 and you still don't know what you want in a relationship, that's a red flag. If you don't even know if you even want a relationship, that's a red flag. You know, if you're just here for, you know, there's some keywords that are red flags that pop up to women, and they usually do not swipe right unless they're transactional kind of ladies involved in the sugar process. And these are just for fun, see how it goes. Now, men somehow think that if they say they want a relationship, that every woman on a first date will say, okay, our relationship has started. That's not how it works. It's stating your intention. So women don't think you're going to start a relationship with them just because you've had 1 or 2 dates. That conversation will come later. And women, please don't assume that you're the only person a man is seeing and talking to. Unless you have that conversation, you are not in a relationship. You're just getting to know each other.
And that goes both ways, though.
It goes both ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And there's a lot of talk about 50-50 and coffee dates are so cheap. But I think a coffee date is very civilized because it's not romantic. It's very real. And it can end as quick as you want. So it's a really good way to get to know someone. And, you know, if you don't have that kind of vibe, then, you know, it's still a pleasant conversation, hopefully.
Yeah. So you don't waste your time, you know.
Yeah, why would you want to go to like a 4-course meal at a Michelin star restaurant for a first date? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I mean, if you know them a little bit, you're getting to know them, then it's different. And then the 50-50 is also a test that women do. I know I've done it. I normally say, you know, I think that women are equal to men in every way. But I do like gentlemanly behavior. So I will always offer to pay. And if a man is like really quick to accept, especially when he's like, yeah, okay, I'll know that, okay, this is not someone with very good manners, because I try to pay myself anyway when I'm with my friends, because this is just a cultural thing. We just do it. So I'll think, okay, that's a bit odd. But there's some people from certain countries, like say Central Europe, Northern Europe, they will take it very literally, and they say, okay, you want to pay. That means you'll get insulted if I pay, because women in those parts of the world
I've heard that
get
too.
upset. You have to understand these nuances, you know, and meet people halfway. They're not going to read your mind.
Yeah.
And another thing is women, be very straightforward. Don't play games. Just be very clear. And when a man says something, when a man says he's not looking for something serious, he means it.
Yeah.
So don't think you can change him. He means it. It's not the right time in his life. Maybe, you know, disconnect and maybe revisit that conversation later.
Yeah.
And then I have a question for the men out there, because I'm a single woman myself. Why is it that you'll get to know somebody a little bit and then they disappear. And then every 6 months you get a message from them again, trying to rekindle something that wasn't even there. And you've already friend zoned them in your head. Why do you guys keep doing that? Do you have a Rolodex of like 20 ladies you do this with every 6 months, but then you still don't want a relationship with anyone, but you still want to have the comfort of a conversation? Like, I don't get it. And the female equivalent of that, there is a female equivalent of that too. Do you know about it? Is that something you could, has that happened to you? Like when you were single, like
the ghosting?
Ladies, oh, not ghosting, just like ladies sort of regularly like checking in on you and.
No, I wouldn't have that.
Yeah,
no,
I think it's a guy thing.
It is a guy thing.
And it gets stronger as they get older as well, because I think people are creatures of habit.
So my wife and I have talked about this in the past, and she always says, she's like, they will always come back. At some point, they will always come back.
They always come back.
They always come back. And I understand, from my perspective as a guy, I understand what's going on, because you're just going for where do I have the highest chance of probability for what I'm looking for. So if we met,
that's lovely.
But it's a fact.
What?
It's the truth.
Yeah, but
at least that's my perspective. It's
like I feel like they're forwarding the same message to a lot of people at the same time.
Yeah, very possible. Very possible.
Like, people are humans. You have to treat people like humans. You can't take advantage, and also don't take advantage of people's vulnerabilities. Not everyone understands that that's what people do.
Yeah.
Because I try to think of the best of everyone, and I don't have any like bitterness from my divorce or when I turn a page, I turn a page. I don't turn back.
Yeah.
But a lot of people can't really do that. They hold on to it, and it's not good for them. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with people with insecure attachment styles, they won't go beyond the second. They will not be able to progress.
Yeah.
And they have to work on their issues. And, they can be really nice men and women, but they will not be able to progress because of their attachment issues.
Of course, yeah. Attachment styles is something new that I recently discovered. I didn't know that I think there's 3 types or something. I didn't know
and subtypes as well.
Well, I'm
and
sure.
Borderline types.
Yeah.
But it makes so much sense.
Yeah, of course.
I wish there was a way of knowing what someone's attachment style was. Like, hey, hi, do you want to go for a coffee? What's your attachment style? Can you do this quiz for me?
Choice. Yeah. Which one resonates with you? Which one do you think you are?
Can you imagine?
Well, that would be hilarious.
It would be so useful.
It would be very useful, to be fair. So, we've talked about the dating apps and some great tips there, and some, the reality of what that world, is and can be. So, if I came to you and you said something just now, and I wanted to touch on this, red flags. So you said if you're 30, if you're 35 or older and you still don't know what you want, or you still are unsure about something, like where you are in your life, that's a red flag. Now,
no, it's not a red. Okay.
Yeah.
We're allowed to change our minds.
Yeah.
We're allowed to evolve and change our minds, change our preferences.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what you want to meet someone romantically and you're on apps and you still don't know what direction you could take if you get along, like if you actually meet someone, if you're a man or a woman and you actually meet someone you get along with really well, and then you just throw it away because you're like, okay, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm not ready. I mean, like, work on that first.
Yeah.
Because that could happen anytime.
Yeah.
And you don't want to regret it later.
Yeah. So let's say, and this goes for both like men and women, you've just started a relationship, or you're in the early, you've met someone, you're starting to date. What are let's give me the 3 to 5 red flags to look out for from the beginning, so I don't waste my time and she doesn't waste her time? What are the red flags we should be looking out for?
I think they vary from person to person, but
there are some
general ones. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I think if a person is, I don't know, very inconsistent, and I don't mean people should get like a good morning, good night text every day. That's not what I mean. I mean, like, stay in touch, try to see each other a couple of times a week. Mm-hmm. If you're in different cities, obviously it'll be less. It'll be more quality time than quantity time. But don't just do elaborate dates. Do normal things too. Mm-hmm. Run an errand together. See how the person behaves and interacts. See them when they're upset. And you too, you know, like you should show a person what you're like as well. Like don't hide it. Be yourself. And hey, if you're a cat lover and you meet someone who's allergic to cats, I mean, you know, these things are so important. It's not but that's the thing. If someone is vegetarian and they meet somebody who loves steak every day, you know, these are going to be their red flags. These are very personalized red flags. But in general, you know, good behavior, not just someone texting at like midnight and saying they want to see you. That's a red flag. You know, that's someone who's...
Yeah, there's no...
And and after like a few months, you should know, you know, and then, you know, if you're comfortable enough to talk to each other about future plans, and it doesn't mean marriage, it just means where's your life going? Where's your career going? You know, what would you like in life? Just be open about it, transparent about it.
Yeah. But like you said, we do like it's very often, especially when this is normal, I think, in every relationship. Like this is where it's challenging because there's things, I think, like you said, there's personal red flags that we all have, you know, our preferences, our things.
We all have our own, we all carry flags.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We've got so many, we've got, I would say, a lot of pink flags, even the best of us.
Pink flags.
Like it's not
red.
It's not extreme.
You know, like preferably not, but you know, we could, it's, you know, it's workable.
Yeah, I think if we identify our own.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, just identify your own as well and know that you're not perfect either. We're imperfectly perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So 3 to 4 months, you said earlier in the conversation that's usually when the mask starts to come off. So that's why when it comes to red flags, you're like, and I like that you brought up pink flags because you can look at something and be like, I think it's red, but pink. And so many times people will tell you like down the line something won't work out. You're like, oh, the red flags were so obvious in there. So but it's also contextual because I think there's a time where the red flags are so clear that you're just choosing to ignore and that's your fault. And there's times where maybe I thought it was red, but I don't like with time you get clarity on, that wasn't what it is. Because it does take time.
Not even once your emotions develop, you will refuse to look at the red flags.
Great points.
You don't even recognize them. And then people who care about you will recognize them and point them out.
You're wrong.
Yeah, you get defensive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, remember that people who care about you and give you advice for relationships will be projecting their own experiences and feelings too. They won't necessarily be about you. Let's
dive into that a little bit more because that's a great point.
That's true. You have to trust yourself as well, and you have to do the work on yourself. Yeah. Whether you see a professional or a coach or, do a lot of reading. It just being introspective and learning to trust your own instinct. I believe that we have the answers within, and we're just looking for gratification. And one more thing. You don't get closure. When something ends, you won't get closure from the person. You won't get your questions answered. You won't, especially if it's someone who's not completely honest, you won't get an apology. You will only get closure from yourself. And that's frustrating for everyone.
I know.
And it's a process.
But you're right. That's really, really insightful. Like, because even I can reflect on when I've been giving advice or whatever, like you said, but I didn't realize it until you said it that, I'm just telling you like what my experience has been and what I've learned, and this is what I would do. But again, like you said, you're a different person. My advice might be terrible for you, or it could be beneficial. And I think, like you said, only you will figure it out once you go through it and once you learn to. Trusting yourself is a muscle. It's not something that just, because people talk about intuition and like, I felt it and I knew. I'm like, yeah. So when you make that mistake next time, remember that feeling because if it comes up again,
well said.
Learn to trust it. You know what I'm saying?
In general, I find that women will have a group of friends that they tell everything to. Perhaps they tell too many things to too many people, and men will have the opposite. Men will not share as much.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's also an issue. So women will overshare. I'm talking about in very general terms.
Yeah.
And men will not share as much. If a man has close female friends, he ends up telling them more.
And this is a great point to dive into because you're right. Like I just reflect on like my circle of friends. my circle of friends and my wife and so on, and the conversations they have, obviously the level of vulnerability is on a different level, and the level of communication is on a different level. And I think this is a gender thing though, because I'm just going to speak from a guy's perspective. I have a group of very close friends, and one-on-one we have some really we can go deep. And sometimes as a group, the rare times, sometimes everyone's just like in a vibe and you just like get in and you get in. It's rare. Now, but from my perspective as a guy, and I think maybe this is just a personal thing. The way my wife is perceived is very important to me. I don't want to share things that might project you in a different lights and different aspects of your personality or challenges, whatever. I'm just speaking about like us on women's side. It's when they're having that conversation. My wife's having that conversation with like her like close friends. It's about it's not about, she's not thinking about that part. It's just helping me with this problem that I'm having right now. So it's
but later, if it gets unpleasant, later she'll want to take it back, and it's too late because the friends already have that impression.
Exactly. So I think that's where the difference is. Maybe that's just a personal thing, but I think that's why guys, especially, like a girl will tell her friend like, oh, like he's bad or good or whatever.
Oh no, it gets way more detailed than that.
I know. I believe me. I've heard the conversations. I know. I'm very aware. I'm just trying to keep it surface level for now. But at least for guys, it's just even for me to comment to one of my friends about his wife. I can't do that. There's just different rules.
Yeah.
You know, there's different things.
I know, I get
there's different things that we care about.
Yeah,
I think,
there's a bro code.
Yeah.
No, but there's also a sisters before misters code. So. I mean, women have their own kind of loyalties and all kinds of things, and certain lines you don't cross. But
do you feel that women? I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Do you feel that? Because I've like obviously heard my wife on the phone like for a long time. I don't feel that. I feel my perspective is sometimes women do not give good advice to their friends. Because they will support whatever you're saying.
Yeah.
They're like, you go, girl. Absolutely, he's a piece of shit. Yeah. And no, you're right. And whatever. So I'm like,
There's a couple of things at play here.
Okay.
So one, women do have a really good support system.
Yes.
That men don't.
Very true. Yes.
Okay. But two, yes, women are so supportive that yes, they will call you out if you're doing something wrong.
Rarely.
Or they think
the really good ones, the very close ones.
That's supposed to be your good friends who do call you out and tough love and all that. And it's cruel to be kind and all that. But I still think you need to use tact and empathy for it because people get very defensive. But you'll see a man, he's like, a man will get like regularly insulted and banter by his friends, and a woman will be like, oh, you look so hot, you look so pretty, I love this on you. And if the man is like wearing something, he'll be like, bro, you look like whatever.
Yeah, we show love in different ways.
I mean, it's so different.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, a woman's circle is like it's a cheerleading squad, and a man's circle is like
the humbling squad.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that part is very true. That's very true.
But people definitely unintentionally project their own experiences when they're giving advice. They do.
I honestly never thought of it until you said that. That's very, very, very good advice. Very good advice.
There's wisdom that comes with it. There's also the added, if the person cares about you and can put themselves in your shoes. But remember, it's subjective, right?
Of course.
It's not objective. So in the end, it's your decision and you don't want to blame someone else.
Yeah.
So make your own decisions.
Yeah. Fair. I think that's really good advice. I want to round off our conversation for today, Laaleen, I want to hit these points, very important points to hit before we...
Oh, there it is.
You got it? So I wanted to round off our conversation for today with just a couple very key questions I wanted to get into. So first, if I came to you and I'm like, hi, Laaleen, my name is Khalid. I would like to enroll in your bespoke matchmaking service.
First of all, I would reject you because you're married.
Fair. Okay. Not
I would
Khalid.
ask you
Someone
in
else
detail.
Yes.
Okay. Say it's okay. Be somebody else. Be like, hey.
Hi, I'm John. I'd love to be part of this bespoke matchmaking service. So,
what is your relationship status?
I'm single.
Define single. Are you separated? Are you divorced?
No,
You've never been married?
I've never been married. I'm a single guy. I'm 36.
Okay, great. I would schedule a video call with you, which is a complimentary consult, and I would get some details down for you on you, create your profile, and if I think it's suitable for me to take you on as a client, I would then get back to you with information.
Okay, so if I came, so it's what is your process of taking on a new client in the sense of not only do they fit obviously the right mentality, you can tell from your intuition and your analysis that this could be a good person that, might have some options. Is it, or are you like, I don't know anyone that I could maybe pair them up with, so I don't know if we should,
Okay, so when I'm matching people, I have a database.
Okay.
But I also do outreach, and I have a wider network.
Okay.
So I will only say no if I think that their expectations are extremely unrealistic.
Okay.
Otherwise, and if I think they're, they have good intentions, they're solid, they're down to earth, they're good-hearted people, then I would, oh my gosh, I would matchmake the whole of Dubai or the whole world.
I think a lot of people I think a lot of people need your help.
Wish I could.
And is there like let's say you decide to take me on as a client. Now, is there a certain time frame that this typically happens, or is it because you know what I mean? Like, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I focus on quality, not quantity. So I give it at least 6 months.
Okay.
At least 6 months.
Okay. Minimum.
Yeah.
And in that 6 months, are you introducing me to different people that you think would be a good
one
match?
At a time. Yes, one at a time.
Okay.
It's not something. It's not a dating app experience.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
So you don't get to see a lot of people and swipe and get confused. You focus on one person at a time.
Yeah.
And if there's mutual compatibility, you have the opportunity to reconnect.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. And how do you, as Laaleen, measure the success? Is it the beginning of a relationship? Is it the length of a relationship? Do they get married? For you on a personal level, this was successful, to me.
If both parties are happy and they thank me and they tell me we would not have met each other if it wasn't for you, that's success for me.
That's success for you. That's awesome. That's beautiful. And to round off our conversation, give me your 5 top dating tips for anyone out there looking to find love in 2025. What are you going to tell me?
Well, so first of all, 2025 is the UAE's year of community, and that is exactly what we're doing here with Socialleague. Okay, I would say mindful dating. Go to the right places, have the right intentions, don't waste people's time. Don't waste your own time. Keep it positive, keep it happy, be as straightforward as you can without being impolite.
Okay.
Try to explain to people before you ghost them. Do not ghost them. Maintain etiquette. If you get a bad feeling about someone, it's usually correct. If you have a strong instinct. And, feel free to ask each other for Instagram, LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is a good, solid way of exchanging information because, everyone is an accomplished professional in these circles. And if the person says, hey, no, I just have Snapchat, I think that's a red flag. They might have a couple of wives here and there. And honestly, the wives aren't happy about it either.
I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. Very interesting that you said LinkedIn there but I understand why. Because on social media, on my personal social media, I can create a very specific image. Mm-hmm. But LinkedIn's for business. So you're going to see really what I'm about and what I've done and who am I connected to and the kind of contents I'm putting out. So it does give you, I think, a decent indication. But I would have never thought about LinkedIn as like a profile to check?
I'm very upfront about LinkedIn.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I'm like, here's my LinkedIn. You can connect. Yeah, because if you want to know me as a person, whether it's professional, personal, social, I mean, LinkedIn for me is really important.
Interesting.
Because it's like all your cards on the table, and this is me, and who are you? And if the person is very guarded, insecure, either there's some trauma there. And I know I've heard one story where somebody's ex, she showed up at his office because she found out on LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
And that's terrible.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Don't go to LinkedIn for that, guys. It's not like the extra revenge platform.
And also don't stalk people, you know. I mean, I think all of us have had stalkers, and they just keep finding you and they make you miserable.
Yeah.
Report them to the police immediately.
Report them to the police. I think that's
There's cybersecurity for a reason. There's police for a reason. Just do it.
Yeah. Laaleen, this has been a very enlightening and fun conversation.
For me as well. I've learned from you. Thank you.
I love these kind of conversations. From my last two questions, these are questions I ask all my guests. So looking back, either personally or professionally, when I ask you the question, what are you most proud of for yourself? What would you say?
I'm proud that I grew Socialleague organically, and that my heart is in it. But at the same time, I'm solving a problem that exists in society today. Yeah. Not just in Dubai, but worldwide. And I'm proud of that.
Yeah. And you should be. And I think what you do is a very, very unique thing. There's not many that, you're the first matchmaker I've ever had the pleasure of speaking to. So I've learned so much from you. For all the single people out there, this is the kind of episode exactly what you need. You've got the tips, you've got what to avoid, you've got the red flags, you've got what to look out for. So make sure you get in touch with Laaleen if that's what you're looking for. And for my last question, what is the message you'd like everyone to take home with them today?
It's never too late to rediscover love.
I don't think there's a better way to end it than that. Laaleen, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been really, really so much fun. Really learned a lot from you. If people want to reach out with you, work with you, get in touch, where can we find you?
Yeah, so Socialleague, socialleague.live.
And on Instagram and LinkedIn,
everywhere.
All over the place.
Just go to the website and you'll find all the social links there.
Awesome. Laaleen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really had a blast.
So
Guys,
did I.
To everyone listening, please make sure to like, share, follow, and subscribe to the podcast. I hope it helps pod. And as always, guys, hope it helps. Peace.
Yay!
And that's another episode in the bag, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. The goal of this podcast is to provide, as I like to call it, education on demand. We cover a wide range of topics, and the goal is to provide you with the knowledge, the tools, and the insights to improve your lives both personally and professionally. And if you're enjoying the show and you're enjoying the content, if you could please do me the small favor of hitting that subscribe button, would really help me build the show and build the channel, and that's all I ask. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations, bigger guests, and as always, guys, hope it helps. Peace.